Today is the 18th of April, 2025. So what's in store for us? Now, today I'll talk about this. Powell signals caution and patience in the face of rising tariff risks and sticky inflation. Now, the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, in a closely watched address to the Economic Club of Chicago on Wednesday, struck a tone of cautious optimism as he outlined the Fed's view on the economy and monetary policy amidst rising geopolitical and domestic policy uncertainty. So while emphasizing the US economy's relative strength, Powell also acknowledged emerging headwinds, particularly stemming from sweeping changes in trade and fiscal policy under the new administration. So this is what he said: a solid but slowing economy. So Powell opened by reaffirming the Federal Reserve's dual mandate of maximum employment and price stability, while noting that the US economy remains in a solid position. Powell acknowledged signs of deceleration. Now, this is the key point right here: deceleration. Now, initial data suggests that first quarter GDP growth has slowed compared to last year's strong performance, dampened by modest consumer spending and a surge in imports, a response by businesses, right, aiming to preempt further tariffs. Now, despite these headwinds, Powell pointed to a labor market that remains broadly in balance, with an average of 150,000 jobs added monthly in quarter one, stable unemployment and wage growth that continues to outpace inflation as well. Now, importantly, Powell emphasized that the labor market is not currently a source of inflationary pressures. So, where's the inflation actually coming from? Now, the inflation actually comes, this risk here rise on tariff shocks. Now, turning to inflation, right, Powell acknowledged that progress has been made with core personal consumption expenditure, PCE, up 2.8 year on year, though much down from the mid-2022 high. Now, however, recent data remains above the Fed's 2% target, and inflation expectations have begun to rise, particularly in response to the administration's aggressive new tariff measures. Now, he warned that tariffs are highly likely to generate at least a temporary rise in inflation, and depending on how deeply and quickly they feed through supply chains, the inflationary shock could prove more persistent. Now, Powell also emphasized, right, that while short-term expectations have tick up, right, long-term expectations appears well anchored, a crucial distinction for Fed's credibility. Okay, now this is one thing that we can understand. You need to understand. Okay, so short-term, he expects inflation to be up, but long-term is well anchored. Now, if he thinks that long-term is well anchored, then still not an issue. Rate cuts are still to be expected. Okay, but if he thinks long-term is a different thing, then that's a different case. Now, this speech of his has brought a lot of response, especially from President Donald Trump. In his tweet, he actually calls for Powell's removal because he's not happy. He wants Powell actually to cut rates as soon as possible, even the May one. Okay, don't wait until June. Okay, so that's the reason why when he's so he's so how would I put it? He's so angry when he saw when he knew that this was the decision of the Fed, which is a holding pattern for now. Because given the uncertain magnitude and duration of policy shocks, right, spanning trades, immigration, fiscal, regulatory domains, Powell indicated that Fed is not ready to make any immediate moves on interest rates. Instead, he stressed the importance of patience and data dependence. This is the thing with Powell. He's always using the same word: patience, data dependence. He said, we are well positioned to wait for greater clarity before considering any adjustments to our policy stance. He said, adding that the central bank is vigilantly monitoring how new policies will influence inflation and employment. Now, Powell also hinted at the delicate balancing act ahead. If inflation reaccelerates while growth softens, a scenario made more likely by the tariff-driven supply shock, the Fed could face the rare situation where its dual mandates pull in opposite directions, which could lead to the dreaded stagflation. Okay? So this is what they don't want. Because if you like it or not, stagflation is something rare. Okay, it is something rare, but it has happened in the past, and this is the worst of all kind of economic scenario, right? So in such a case, Powell suggests that the Fed would weigh how far the economy stands from each mandate and the likely time horizons to address them. Now, the door remains open to action if inflation expectations shift or trade shocks become more persistent. But for now, the market is currently pricing in rates to remain for May, a 67.4% chance probability of a rate cut in June, and a total of 3 cuts anticipated by the end of the year. Okay? So 1 cut in June and balance 3 more cuts by the end of the year. So we shall wait and see. Okay, so that's the fundamental report for today.